I'm ready.
Hi, welcome to the Nick and Jason Show. Today we're going to cover objectives and key results, otherwise known as OKRs. If you never knew what OKR meant, now you do. You're welcome. So Nikta, why don't you give us a brief overview of what OKRs are, the theory behind them?
Well, Jason, I am no expert, although I did go to a one-day OKR training that just happened to be located in Milan. So let me tell you some of what I learned in the training. Because, you know, even at my previous company that I worked at, we implemented OKRs. And so I kind of thought that I knew what they were and how they worked. And while in all the teams that I've worked on where we've implemented OKRs, we did some of it right, I only truly converted into becoming a fan of OKRs and thinking that they're actually a really great framework after I did this training. And there's no way that we could cover everything about them, but there was plenty of blog posts and YouTube videos and whatever. So if you're not familiar with it, by all means, take a few minutes to just quickly read up on it. But in short, it's a goal setting and planning framework. So as a team, if you're working in software, maybe you say, okay, for the upcoming quarter, our objective is going to be to completely redo our onboarding framework in order to make it easier for customers to get up and running with our software. And then some of the key results that you would have under that are things like, I don't know, whatever, what are some examples? Deliver the new onboarding flow by July 1st. 70% of users, another key result might be that 70% of users successfully complete the entire onboarding flow. So basically the key results are ways that you would measure that you're achieving your objective. Okay, so it serves as evidence, and a really well-structured OKR will kind of tell a story within the key results, that maybe it's a combination of some what we call milestone key results, where you just deliver something. So did you ship a feature, yes or no? It's pretty binary. And then there might be an outcome key result, which is how many users actually use it? How many sales did you get out of it? How did you improve retention? So like I said, by all means, go read up on them if you're not too familiar with the framework. But, I think in a nutshell, you can think of it as a way of planning in terms of setting what your what your main objectives are, and then figuring out how you're going to measure that you're actually getting there. Did that make sense?
Sure.
You weren't listening.
It was.
Okay, we both used them because we were in the same organization, not on the same team, but in the same organization. So how did they work on your team? Did you find them to be valuable? Were they a waste of time for you? How did you feel they worked?
It was management theater. That's what I thought of them.
Woo! What a bold statement.
Well, so the way they were implemented and presented to us originally, yeah, it was basically, jump through these hoops because management said so. That's really what it felt like, especially on my team. And maybe I'm specific to the team. No one paid attention. I don't even think anyone wrote or read, somewhere along the line in OKRs, you have to turn, what you want to achieve into projects to achieve them, right? And that's usually at the kind of layer we were at. And so we'd have to turn these objectives and key results into projects and describe the projects. And so I described the projects, and then no one would I'd present on them. There were no questions. There was no one read what I wrote. I even put in on purpose, aliens are probing me at this moment in one of the documents. No one mentioned it.
You didn't. No, you didn't.
No one mentioned, no one's, hey, how did the probe go? No one mentioned. Yeah, something like that. I don't know.
Okay, but Jason, hold on though.
Glib with them.
To be fair, is that a sign that nobody cares, or is that a sign of high levels of trust? Where they go, the whole point, you say that it was management theater, but the way I understood it, it was management saying, listen, you guys are the ones who are experts in our users, in the app, in the problems
Sure.
that our users are trying to solve. So you guys go figure out what you think the next quarter's objectives and key results, and then their associated projects, like you say, should be. And then, yeah, like obviously if something seems totally out of whack, management will interfere and stop you from going down a path too far. But why do you take like their lack of questions or direct engagement or something as a sign that they just didn't care, rather than a sign that they were just like, yeah, looks good, Jason, like you guys obviously are the experts and you've put a lot of thought into this, so
They
go do
didn't,
it.
yeah, no, they didn't read them. They wouldn't have, they would, that's great. That means they trust me, but they verified that I did the work. They didn't do that. Anyway, let's stop. Let's go back a bit because, right when we were subject to a number of reorgs and they were just getting the hang of this, what OKRs truly were right near the end. And then what you described, that's what they implemented right near the end. So I only got one shake at that way of doing things. Before that, it was like, we're going to do OKRs, do these projects. Like it was a lot of cargo cult.
True.
OKRs are, hey, I just heard a new acronym. It's called OKRs. We should do those. And that's kind of, that happens all throughout the tech industry. Hey, let's make MVPs. Cool, let's make MVPs. And then nothing changes. You're just calling what you're shipping a different label. Oh, it's just an MVP, which I think most people interpret as, let's make it shitty and just get it out as fast as we can. Let's barf whatever we can out and then ship it. And so OKRs are kind of the same thing. Like, hey, let's call what we're doing OKRs because then, we'll be following Intel or whoever. And so
whatever, yeah.
But there's definitely some value there and some technique there. You have to, you can't just, well, there's one model where you're just like, hey, I trust you, build stuff. And then they go off and build stuff, right? Like that's one model. But then, you tend to get a lot of things that maybe aren't that focused. You got a lot of big moonshot things. I think Google tends to work that way, or they did in the past. Like, hey, you're super smart, go build us something that we'll make money off of. But they ended up like all their projects were just too large. And so, the theory behind OKRs, which is we need to see these things, management values these things. We want to see these things move by the end of the quarter or the end of the year. Figure out how. And then we go off and figure out how. That's great. I want to work at a place that actually does that. So, but that's not really how it was implemented. And the cool thing about about no one caring about us is that we could do what we wanted, and we were after the metrics we truly valued. And for a consumer site, it's, I don't know, like it's like kind of like the ankle bones connected to the knee bone connected to the thigh bone crap. Like we were like so far removed from revenue that which is what everyone really kind of focuses on as a number, as a metric, that it's really hard to show that you are valuable. And so coming up with our key results was kind of like, it was always really hard to quantify. In a way, we didn't own the revenue streams that we were kind of responsible for. It was all kind of like, I don't know, it was a bit of a jumble, but
and that's a very important point actually on OKRs, is like the concept of ownership. Like you're supposed to, a really well-structured OKR is going to have it so that all of the key results are within the team's control, which I find is so often just not really the case in reality. Like it's a lovely idea.
Yeah.
And you can certainly keep challenging yourself to scope down the key result further and further to make it something that is within your team's control. But a lot of things like revenue and sales or retention or whatever are totally shared metrics between marketing, sales, support, product teams, engineers. Like, so it's here, one thing that I definitely learned is that it's not a perfect model by any means, but quite honestly, in my experience, it's the best one that I've worked with so far. Like in terms of like coming up with a quarterly plan and a roadmap and stuff, And like you said, like in our organization, we took OKRs a step further and translated them into projects that we thought were going to help us achieve those key results.
Which you have to do anyway. We did it explicitly with this thing we called one pagers, but yeah.
Well, we did,
You have
but
to do
a
it
lot
anyway.
of companies, Jason, they would do that. Like, yes, they would eventually translate them, but they wouldn't necessarily do that all at the beginning of the quarter. Like at my last company, we basically did it sprint by sprint. It was like, okay, let's just like remind ourselves. Yeah. Like we didn't have like.
Sounds terrible.
It was great. It
Doing it
was
sprint by
truly
sprint?
agile.
Did anything work then? How could you like, you just work a 2-week sprints and that's it? You don't even like, oh, hey, we were supposed to be over there, but we're here now.
Oh my God, yes, of course we did. We weren't idiots.
God, you need a plan, man. You need to plan more than 2 weeks out.
Yeah, we had a plan. It's just that it wasn't like we didn't commit to something for the entire quarter like we did
Oh, okay.
at the company.
I always felt that committing to the quarter was not enough time. Like the projects that were truly going to move the needle required at least a quarter of engineering time, which means, plus QA and design time, it's going to be half a year before you can truly get rolling on it. And so I always felt they were just starting to do with yearly OKRs, raise whatever engagement or number of saves or some other dumb metric. I don't know what it was, but do that over the whole year. And then you can kick off a largish project in January. You can ship something maybe, I don't know, right at the end of Q1, but you're not going to truly see the impact until like 3 quarters later.
Yeah.
And then you could definitively say like this actually did what we wanted to do for the year.
Yeah. So. I find that follow through piece like one of the most challenging parts of being a product manager, because like I have, we've talked about this in previous episodes. My responsibilities are such a smorgasbord of things in terms of like.
What? I'm sorry, what?
Did I mispronounce it? I already regret saying it.
Time.
How do you say it?
Smorgasbord?
S'mores.
I would anglicize it, so smorgasbord, and I'd say it as it was spelled.
Smorgasbord. No, but I've heard schma. I've heard smorgasbord.
Okay, that's better. You did it better this time.
How do you pronounce it? I have such a wide variety of things that I'm responsible for. So I need to be planning for the upcoming quarter. I need to be like reflecting on the previous quarter. I need to be writing my specs for right now, and I need to be like QAing features that are about to go out the door, and I need to be working with marketing and design to get final designs and copy written and then translated. So I just find that thing that you were talking about, like reflecting and saying like, yes, that thing that we did truly did move the needle, is the hardest thing for me. And one of the things that I desperately want to get better at.
Yeah. And I think that's something that management had acknowledged right before it all went to shit with coronavirus. They had acknowledged that no one's following up. So you're like, you do these projects, but then did they work? Why not?
Yeah.
Never really did it. And I think like, going back to the yearly thing, if you can just say like, we're going to make this, thing, it's going to move the needle in revenue and all these things. And then you can break that down into projects, but you're basically in the same thing for the entire year. And so then your job, your buffet of tasks that you have become a little easier because you're always in the same context. It's always like this big thing. And so then you can reflect. And so say you do ship it in Q1, and then you find in Q2 that, there's this real opportunity. People are using it in a way you didn't anticipate, but you can make a couple changes to make that usage so much better. Well, you can pivot and do that, and then the metrics go up as you need to. And so, there tended to be every quarter, like, let's just erase this whole chalkboard and like start from the ground up again. And like, I don't think that should work. You should you have some vision of what you want to be at the beginning of next year, and you just go like that. I find that to be
this
deeper
relates.
Things like that.
Sorry. This relates to our episode on whether or not engineers are replaceable cogs, because if you recall that, like, I personally think that teams should have ownership over some space, whether it's like a specific product or a specific like personas, use case with that product or whatever. Like if somebody says to you, like, you're going to own whatever, the number of people that save something on the website, that's too narrow of a thing, but you get what I mean. Like having ownership over a certain space within the product
Right.
is so important. Whereas some other models say, whatever happens to be the most important at this time to the business, put all of your resources, or as many resources as you can, on that. And so now you're plucking engineers out of all these different teams that each have their own area of ownership, and you're putting them on this new team where they don't have the same context and they don't have the familiarity and whatnot. So I agree with you that like it's nice when you have ownership for like a really long period of time, like 2+ years, in order to truly like internalize the problem with the product, understand your users, start to like notice patterns that would otherwise be lost to you because everyone keeps erasing the chalkboard quarter after quarter. Right?
And actually 2 years is a good number. That's what I've observed, having, written several products, is that around 2 years is when the code is finally mature enough to truly have solved the problem, all its little kind of, paths and branches and stuff. 2 years with that problem, that code is got it. It's nailed that problem. And then you can start doing all kinds of other things building on top of that. And that's kind of how long it takes. Not that you can't, ship in month 1 and iterate, but that's kind of what it takes. 2 years.
Yeah. One thing that I wanted to mention about OKRs that like I said, like they're not perfect. They're the best framework that I've worked with so far. And what I like about them actually is that it forces some degree of structure in terms of having tough conversations. Because like you and I both have had this experience, Jason, and OKRs don't solve this completely, but I do think that they alleviate it, where management swoops in at the last minute and says, oh my God, this is the new priority. Everybody drop what you were doing. And there's now like this new thing that we have to go after. And also in general, like it seems like, at least in tech, in my experience, like there's so many things that are high urgency and high priority. And there's like some sort of magical expectation that somehow if you advocate for all of these projects enough, they will get done. And so OKRs for me has been a framework to push back and say no and explain that like that's actually not going to be our objective this quarter. We're going to focus on this other thing and actually move the needle instead of like being like spreading ourselves so thin across so many different areas. So I appreciate that they kind of create, and then management is kind of forced to go along with that because that's what OKRs are, right? So I find that creates a little bit of discipline for that kind of thing.
Yeah, and which is kind of necessary in a product team. You have to have the discipline and the discipline to stick to your guns. If you've come up with a strategy or where you want to take the product, you can use the OKRs can be used to stick to your guns and say, no, we believe in this and we're going to carry it out. And you're right, it does kind of force an appreciation of what's required to get there, which often people may not really do. And so you get, 3 steps in, you just kind of winged it and you're 3 steps in and now you're like stuck. But if you do all that ahead of time, you might be able to anticipate things and do it a different way, that type of stuff.
Yeah, right. They're not so bad. So guys, if you have used OKRs at your companies before, please tell us about that experience in the comments below. Make sure you smash that subscribe button. And I'm sure we'll talk more about planning and quarterly planning and things like that in future episodes, huh, Jason?
That's an objective of ours.
See what you did there.
Bye.
Okay, bye.